that button. There we go. Thank you. All right. It is being recorded and we're going to get started here. Happy Monday, each and every one of you. As always, we're going to start with this announcements, and Kyle stumbling over his words because he hasn't talked to anyone all day. But the first thing is assignment number 3 is due today. So as you probably already know, that is what we have. So if you don't have it across the line, it's not the biggest deal, but it is a deal. So make sure that you are reaching out about any knowledge gaps that you have in the assignment with your TAs, with your TFs, with your colleagues, your classmates, your coworkers, anybody who knows coding. Reach out to them to try to get that assignment across the line. If you need to, please reach out and we can schedule one-on-one time. Just go to my Calendarly and we can hit up those questions that you have. So please make sure you are doing, or you're finishing assignment 3 and getting across the line and getting to assignment 4. I'm not going to use that as an announcement tonight, but start looking at it. Like we already discussed it when the class was just getting here, assignment 4 is usually people's favorites. So if that's not enticing, go and check it out and see if you like it yourself. All right, next thing we got is tonight we have a studio review at 8 p.m. We are going to be resuming those studio reviews. So feel free to join in. If you don't want to join, you don't have to. Everything's going to be recorded. But love to see everyone's faces there and love to get that feedback and questions. All right. Anybody have any additional questions before we jump into class? Oh, I still have coffee. Man, made it fresh. It's like perfect right now. Anything? None at all? Okay, then. Don't talk to me. Whatever. Let's go into class here. So we're going to go on a field trip today because today, as you already saw, we have CSS and Git. Both of those things are not always the best on slides, so we're going to work actually in getting our hands dirty in our environment. So that's going to be really fun. So we have all talked about our environment. We're going to be working in Visual Studio Code today. So if you are following along, like I know some of you do, feel free to load up that Visual Studio Code. We're going to be working with that and also Terminal. So let's hop over that, and I'm going to see how I can do this exactly because I know that okay, yeah, that's right. I put it over here. Awesome, awesome, awesome. And we're going to do a new file in our JS. So welcome to test.js. There we go. You don't get to see that question yet. Get out of there. All right. So this is Visual Studio Code. We got acquainted very, very briefly last class with it, but I really just wanted to show you everything about it and how we're going to be working with it. So as you can see, I already have this open. So what I'm going to do is actually close it because I didn't want that open. And I'm going to go right back to it, Visual Studio Code. And why I'm doing that is because it's going to open up a fresh new Visual Studio Code with me. And I want to show you all something very, 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 very important that is going to be helpful here and to the end of liftoff about your projects. When we open up Visual Studio Code, you will see a blank Visual Studio Code screen as you do now on my screen. When you want to open up a project, what you do not want to do is say open, go to open file. What you want to do is open folders. So we're going to go to open, and I'm going to go ahead and find my folder. And it's going to show my desktop here and selection 14. Now watch what I do very, very closely. I'm going to single select 14. Of course, I'm on a Mac here, but you're going to do the same thing on Windows. You're going to make sure it's highlighted and then press open. Do not open single files unless you are trying to do that. We do this because we want to edit our projects, our applications, our folders that has lots of code in it, not singular files. Otherwise, you're going to open up a lot of individual files and it's going to get very confusing. So make sure you are opening up your folders that your projects are in, not individual files. So welcome to lecture 14. This is our folder that we're going to be working with today, or our project. What I want to do is briefly show you the how we're going to be using Visual Studio Code as well. So as we already saw, I opened up a test.js here. What I did was I just right-clicked and I pressed new file, and then I typed in test.js. So we're going to go into test.js and we're going to do a little bit of JavaScript just to show you how to use this like we were using Replit. Real quick, if anyone has any questions about Visual Studio Code, again, go ahead and use that lecture-questions channel, and I'll be happy to answer any of them before we start diving into JavaScript once again. I see someone typing here. I'm very excited because I know I'm going to answer some questions that have been thrown out. Oh, we're getting a lot of questions. I might just take you guys off mute. If you want to, feel free to unmute yourself and just ask any questions you have about Visual Studio Code or anything that you want to see in particular. How do you get the VS Code to console log stuff? We're going to be looking into that here shortly. We're going to be doing that with JavaScript, so just hold tight. Should I create an LC101 folder on my desktop? I would encourage you to do that. You want to keep all of your LC101 projects in a singular area, just like you could do your photos or your videos on your laptop. Make an LC101 folder to contain all of those individual project folders. I would, yes, recommend that. I just got into lecture. Are these code files for lecture 14, a VSC, available somewhere that we should make one? They will be available, but they are not widely available yet. I'm just showing you this. You didn't miss too much. I just opened this up on my screen, so not a problem there. And then I'll take one more question, then I gotta go. We got so much fun stuff to go over tonight. But I do like all these questions because it just let me sip my coffee. Is there a plugin to preview HTML locally within VS? I believe there should be. I always go through the browser just because I need something native, but there might be. Feel free to Google that. If you find anything, let me know. If any of the TFs know about any good extensions, feel free to throw it in there. If you don't find any, direct message me and we can definitely look. What's the difference between blue and purple Visual Studio Code? Purple is actually the professional. That's going to be Visual Studio is purple. Visual Studio Code is blue, which is free and community version. So if you have a purple one, you might be getting a banner here in the near future saying you need to pay for that because they want money from you. So make sure you go back and get the Visual Studio Code. If you have a purple one, you want to stick with blue. Blue is free, purple's money. You don't want to do that. Unless you do, and then with the fancy version, some people do. All right, everyone, I'm going to continue on here. So we have our we created our test.javascript file here. So as always, we started our stuff off with maybe we're going to console log something. So that was one of our questions. So let's go ahead and just do a console log. Not what I wanted to do there. We're going to come down here to this and say console log.hello world. Now, this is pretty simple. We just said console log hello world, everything lit up here. Visual Studio Code's going to help us out with that. This is very, very nice. But where's the run button? Where's all this console output log stuff? Great question. This is just an environment for us to code. So let's actually open up our terminal and get some console logs out here. All right, purple community version has free. Okay, thanks, Sean. Yeah, purple has a community version that is free, but a different beast. You want blue. Yeah. Amy, if you do have a question, feel free to type it in the lecture questions channel and I can definitely get to it. All right, so we have the console log and what we need to do is get that terminal open. So if you're on Mac, what I usually do is press Command space. If you're on, if you are on Windows, feel free to open up your command prompt or your, I believe technically your Git bash can do it, but command prompt can sometimes be more fun. So I'm gonna say terminal. And our little terminal pops open. Awesome, isn't that cool? So what I have to do now is use our terminal things. Can anyone tell me how I get to a directory? If I wanted to change my directory to desktop, how would I do it? Thank you. Yeah, very good. CD desktop. Awesome. I need to go to LC there, and we say LC, and there's lecture 14. Awesome. So we say lecture 14. If you also don't want to type out fully a lecture 14, feel free to press tab halfway through the word. If there's only one with that much spelling, it actually spells it out for you. It's kind of nice. So now we're in here. I'm going to type ls to list all my files. I see JS, so I need to see in the JS there. List out them again, and I see class 1 question, which we're not to yet, and our test.js file. To run our program file here, we need to run it with the command node, N-O-D-E. And then we type in the file name, test.js. You press enter, and Kyle didn't save his file because I see a little dot up here. So I say Control save. There you go, Kyle, doing your work now. Let's try that again. Node test.js. Now we see hello world. This is how we get a console log out into our terminal running a JavaScript file. Again, it was node space, then the name of your JS file, which is test.js for us. All right. So that is how we begin on running our files. There we go. So what we're going to do is get a little bit more complex here. I'm sure some of you have asked, and I know that you have wondered because I've gotten this question in the past, how do we get a readline sync or any other package in here? Well, let's go and take a look at that. If we did it just like how we did it in Replit, we'd say const input equals require readline sync. There we go. And then what we would do is that we'd say, who can tell me? Input dot question. You all know that. What is Kyle's favorite dog name? Oh, we all know that, right? If you don't know that, then I don't even know what to say because I feel like I've just rubbed in everyone's face. So I can't wait for someone to get me a dog, honestly, and a thing of cheesecake. All right, there we go. We say const and then the name as our variable. And then we're going to console log out that name. Thank you, Regan. All right. And we're going to console out that logged in name. So you've all seen this before. We're requiring our readline sync, which takes input from the user. We're asking the question, what is Kyle's favorite dog's name? And then we're going to console log that name, which we already know is going to be Stark. But let's see what happens when we try to run it. We come down here, and we're going to get back nothing here. Oh, we're going to get back nothing here because Kyle didn't save again because Kyle's used to auto saving. There we go. Let's read that again. And now we get that error that I was expecting. We got an error here that says error cannot find module readline sync. Now, what the heck does that mean? That means it couldn't find this module because we didn't install it. If you remember from previous lectures, one thing I introduced you to is a thing called NPM, Node Package Manager. Readline sync is a package, and we need to bring it into this project. Now, we were very much pampered, if you will, by Replit because it would bring in the packages for us. But now we're out of that pampered world. We're becoming coders, so we have to do it ourselves. So what we have to do here, and what I'm going to type in first, and you don't have to do this, but I'm going to do it just so it's more visually nice. I typed in clear there to remove everything from the terminal. To bring in the packages, what you have to do is type in npm install, and then the package you want to install. In this case, it's readline sync. What this does is that it's going to actually do the wrong thing. Didn't you? Yeah, you did. I did the wrong thing. Technically I did, but give me a second. What I did here was that I ran my npm I, moved trash, and moved the trash. Stop it. Oh, it's delete. Oh, move trash. Come on. You move trash. Delete. There we go. What I did was I ran npm I in our JS. What I want to do is go down to the root project structure, lecture 14. Right now I'm in the directory JS. I want to be in the directory launch lecture 14. So I have to actually type a cd ... to go back a directory. Now I see that I'm in lecture 14. That's a lot better. So let's go ahead and try this again. So I'm going to say npm install read line sync. There we go. Thought npm would be smart enough to find my root directory, but it's not. I shouldn't assume that. There we go. So what we just saw is that npm installed readline sync onto our project here. So what we have to do, or what that does then is brings in a thing called node modules. In here, we see that readline sync is actually within here under this lib. So it's very nice. It brings in that package so we can use it within our project. So again, if you want to use something like right here with this package name, readline sync, or any others that we've seen, you want to do an npm install with it. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to say cd, or sorry, and I see another question on here. How did I run the program? How you run that program again is node, node. And then you say where it is at, which is going to be in js/test.js. Because again, I'm in that lecture 14 directory. And now look at what we have on our screen. What is Kyle's favorite dog's name? And Regan, what is my favorite dog name? It is Stark, right? Stark it is. Very good. And we do that and it prints out. Awesome. Look at us go. We just did something in an actual environment that coders use every day, including myself. So this is pretty fun. We're actually able to do JavaScript now in this typical environment, which is really, really fun. All right, so if anyone has any questions about what we just saw, this is what I wanted to show you with JS real quick before we start hopping into some more fun stuff. All right. Saying that there are things that does not. So terminal turns into your console. Yes, terminal and console can actually sometimes be synonymous. So yes, your terminal is now your console. This is where all your output could be. Visual Studio Code also has a terminal within it. I don't typically use that. I'm using the terminal to the side there. I believe though, if you come in here and you, I always forget where it's at exactly on Visual Studio Code. I won't try to get that right now, but there is one in the Visual Studio Code if you are curious or you want it all on one screen. So if you're getting a bash node command not found, what that means is that node is not installed on your computer. You want to make sure that npm and node are both installed on your machine that you're coding on. So feel free, if you're on a Windows or a Mac, just type in how to install node on a Windows or a Mac, and it will usually bring you to the node website. I believe there's also an appendix on how to bring it onto your computer on launch code as well. I see, how do you run the program in the terminal? Once again, that is using the keyword node, N-O-D-E, then space, then whatever the name of the JavaScript file is. That is how you run it in the terminal. When you input readline sync, is it always there? Or do you need to do it every time? Once you install it, it's here for this project. But if we go to lecture 15, I'm gonna have to reinstall it again for that particular application. But great question. Yeah, it will definitely stick around. Awesome questions, everyone. All right. Is everyone done typing questions to me? Everybody ready to yell at me? See one more person typing here. Hope you all are ready to yell at me. I haven't heard you guys yell at me for a whole week. 7 days, 10 days, something like that. I don't know, many days. All right. So I'm gonna go ahead and unmute you guys, and then if I see that question here close enough and I can answer, I will get to it. But okay, let's see. One last question. Does Visual Studio Code version control render the Git Bash terminal obsolete? No. You will want to use Git Bash terminal to do a lot of your Git stuff because it does have extra features in it. But if you want to do most of the Git stuff through the terminal, you absolutely can. It's up to you. Both are very, very similar. So they're not really obsolete. It's about really your preference. I know that the instructions do a lot of Git Bash terminal stuff, so you might want to stick with that one. Ashton, how did you get the right file in CMD before typing node stuff? What you want to do is use CD to change directory to the directory you're trying to find with all of your files in it. Again, if I do CD ... I'm outside of my lecture. I do CD lecture 14. So you want to CD change directory into the directory where all your program stuff is at, all your code is at. All right, everyone, we're going to move on here. So as always, well, not as always, today we're doing the second thing. I want you all to help me out with a quick little problem here. And hopefully after assignment 3, it was a little bit easier to do this. So feel free to talk to me. And our question today is, using the array below, place all the dogs' names into a separate array. Easy sentence, right? Great on paper. How are we going to do this? Feel free to unmute yourself and let me know what is the first thing that we're going to need to do using this array to get all those dogs' names into a separate array. Who can tell me? Feel free to unmute yourself.
Create an empty array. The for loop.
I like both of those things. We're going to create an empty array. Give me an empty array name. What are we going to say?
Dog name.
Dog names. Let's go dog names. So we say let dogs names equal empty array there. And then I hear for loop.
For in.
So, oh, for in loop. Okay. So talk me through how you're going to do that for in loop.
For name in my pets.
So for, and then what's our next thing we're going to have to do here in our for in loop? How do we type? What are we going to type in here? What's the first word we're going to do? Let, and then what's our variable name going to be?
We can stick with the names you said.
Well, it's not technically a name here. We're actually going to be looping through each object. So I would recommend, let's say, let pet in, and then my pets. So what I'm showing you here is that you want to make sure you keep your variable name here pretty consistent in a for in loop, so you know it's actually being looped through. It will really help you out. So to help you out with the terminal, once again, you'll need to install npm and node in order to do this, which is in the pre-installation material for launch code. That will get you there. Make sure you make a project file also, and then we just put a JavaScript file in there. This will also all be available to you all here soon on GitHub, so you can actually pull it as well. But if you aren't able to follow along, please at least listen to the lecture so it's not all lost. But we can definitely work with you in the end to get you caught up. Also, if any TF or TAs are online too, yeah, help anybody, I guess, that is a little lost here. All right. So we have let pet in my pets. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna console log that. So we're gonna say pet, and we're just gonna see what that is. So we're gonna go back to our terminal here, and we're gonna cd into class questions, right? We'll just use, let's say node js/class question 1.js. Oh my gosh, it is just a theme today. I cannot remember to do that. There we go. So it looks like it's going to give us back 0, 1, 2, and 3 for this for in loop. Now, is this exactly what we want to do, or are we doing this for loop, or were we wanting to do this for loop a different way?
For loop.
Don't you want to iterate through the indexes in my pets?
Yeah.
That's gonna be a lot better. So what we do a for in loop usually is actually for mapping an object. Right now we want to iterate through an array. If we ever iterate through an array, we want to make sure that we use our indexes. So I'm going to help you out here with i0, I plus than my pets.length, I plus plus. So there we go. We're going to get the same exact thing here, which is going to be our indexes, but this is actually the more structured way of doing it. And Kyle, you need to say, there you go. So we get back 0, 1, 2, 3 as numbers. This is perfect. So how would I actually console log each individual pet now in this console log function here? What do I need to change this to?
My pets angled, or not angle brackets, square brackets, and then the quotes, and then name, lowercase name.
So what you had to write, my pets, square
name.
bracket I, and so we're just gonna console log the pets real quick, but
yeah.
I like what you're doing right now. So yes, we're gonna console log those objects, but you're one step ahead of me. The next thing we need to do is .name. I like that. So we need to save that again. We come back over here, we run it, and now we're getting back all of those names. So there we go. Now we have all the names, we're being able to console log them out. What's our next step? What are we gonna have to do?
Put them into the array.
The dog names array.
I like that. How are we gonna do that?
.push. Dog names .push.
Dogs name.push, very good. And we're gonna copy exactly what we had in that console log. Now, as you can see, again, as always, we're using that console log to show us exactly what's happening step by step as we're coding. So we're gonna comment out that console log now, and we're gonna now console log dog names. I'm gonna do it outside the for loop, so I can see all of it after it's done iterating. Save that, you run it once again, and now we've created an array of dog names there. That's how we would be able to manipulate this object, grab the value we want, and create our own array from it. Now, any questions?
I'm sorry, isn't that all the pet names though, not just the dogs?
I completely forgot about my own question. Yes, you are absolutely right. That is all the pets' names. So what do we actually need to add in here to modify this so it's only the dog names?
If.
Very good. Someone talk me through this if statement. What are we going to put in the if statement?
If my pets bracket I and bracket dot type equals quote dog, triple equals.
Mm-hmm. Very good. And lowercase dog there. And I'm going to throw this now inside of dog name. Awesome. Save that once again and come back here and we run. And there we go. Now we only get back Spot and Bella. Awesome, awesome. Great catch on that. Thank you for calling me out. Completely forgot about just the dogs part. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and get rid of that terminal there just so you can see all the code. Any questions about this question before we move on? Katie, it is not, usually in this one, it is not saved every single time that you run it. All right, any other questions about this? I was trying to get this a little bit closer to what we had to do with the commands. I know it's not as intricate, only a set amount of time, but this is kind of what we had to do. We had to manipulate this array of commands in our assignment 3 and do something with it, run those commands. So, any final things before we keep moving on? If not, we're gonna keep on going here. Let's hop in to our new buddy, HTML. All right, so who can talk me through this one? We're gonna build a web page that has the title Pet Store with a header, welcome to our pet store, and short text area that says, please have a look around. Now, that's a lot of things to do. So let's take this from the top and move our way into it. So build a web page. What do we need to start with?
Doc type HTML.
Sure, we'll start with doc type. And then what's next? What is our most important tag that we need to have in here?
HTML.
Very good, HTML. Who can tell me what HTML stands for?
Hypertext markup language.
Right, don't you guys sound like, doesn't it make you sound so smart when you say it? I love it. HTML, and then what are our 2 tags that always go within our HTML tags? What was it? There's
Title.
only 2. Not
Head.
title, there are only 2.
Head,
Head.
head and body.
Head and body. Ask yourself, does a person have a paragraph? Does a person have a title? Does a person have, physically here,
Yes,
does a person have physically, a person has a head and a body. That is what the 2 tags that go into the HTML. But yes, technically, some they can have titles. Dang it, that was a bad one. But people have heads and they have bodies. And those are the 2 tags only that go inside this HTML tag. We're gonna start up here with the head. It says that we need to have a title of pet store. So who can talk me through of doing that next?
Then the next tag you have under head or in between head is title.
Very good.
And in between title, you will put pet store.
Very good. Absolutely. Awesome, awesome. Make sure that closing bracket is there for sure. All right. And now we have done that successfully. Let's move on to a header with welcome to our pet store. Where are we going to put that?
Inside the body, H1.
Inside the body. Very good. H1, is that what I heard?
Yeah.
All right,
Yes.
welcome to our pet store. Awesome. And then finally, a short text area that says, please have a look around. What are we going to do there? Who can tell me?
P.
P, very good. All right, and then please have a look around. Awesome. There we go. Okay, so what? We're going to go ahead and save this. And one more thing I want to call out, remember that all of our extensions here for websites have .html. So it's always very important to see that. So I'm going to go ahead and open LC. If you can find it, there we go. Lecture 14, go to HTML. And then as we can see here, we have our class question2.html. I'm going to double click and it's going to open up a Chrome browser, or Safari, excuse me, for this matter. And it says, welcome to our pet store. Please have a look around, because this was inside of our body while, I think I can't really see it on Safari, but if you're on Chrome, you can actually see the title of the website too in your tab typically, which in this case would say pet store. So if you ever want to check out the title, it's usually in that tab. That's how you change the tab names on your web browsers or on your websites in the browser. All right, any questions on this HTML stuff? I know I'm going over this. It's been a second, so I just want to make sure that everyone's on the same page with it.
If you make a new tab real quick, will it show the title?
It actually might. Let's take a look. Here it is. Look at that. Awesome. Pet store. Obviously, I don't use Safari a lot. But yes, pet store is up there. Isn't that cool? I think it's neat. All righty. We're going to keep going then. Let's see. Any questions on this one? I'm going to switch to water. Cool. So what I'm gonna do is gonna grab all this fun stuff and let's move on to question 3 here. What if I wanted to make the text of our header red? Bringing that code back in. How do I do this exactly?
CSS.
H1.
CSS would help sometimes, but we
open
have not
style
learned about
tags.
CSS yet. We can use, I heard it, the style, and it's actually
Style
called an, not style sheets. We're not going to be doing that just yet. How do we do it before? What did we do? It was inline, and we used a specific attribute.
Body.
Not necessarily body. So we'll talk through it. What we're going to use is called the attribute style here. So what if I wanted to make the text of the header red? We need to go directly to the header. This is where we're going to go, to this H1. This is our header. And we want to change the text of it to red. So what we do is that we do inline styling. So we can say style equals, and then inside of here, we can actually put some of those CSS properties now. So what we'd say is color, which is for font color. And then we say red, which is hashtag F00, or you can just say red. This is good for just generic colors. So let's go ahead and save this, come back. We're gonna go to this one. What we're gonna do is open up question 3. So I'm just gonna edit this up here in the browser. So now we're on the question 3, and now our text here is red because we used inline styling. This is inline CSS styling. So this is really helpful if we want to just change up some of the properties right there in the lines of the tags. Let's keep exploring. Please, yeah, what's up?
Like where you just showed us the color, is there a way that you can make multiple colors inside of one line?
So are you talking about text by text?
That's correct.
There is. What you'd have to do is that if you really wanted to, you'd write a thing called, I believe, span here.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to do it letter by letter. It'd get a little bit intricate. So you do that, and then you're going to grab that styling there and put that there. And then maybe you want to do this one as green. And we'll save that and we'll see what happens there. There we go. Now we have a green W. Isn't that cool?
Thank you so
span
much.
just absolutely. Span just means that it's going to be in the same line as that tag. That's what a span does. I mean, there's a ton of tags out there. So if you want to go discover them, we're not going to go over even a small amount of them in this class because there's so many in HTML. Feel free to go to W3 Schools to see more of those tags if you want to dive deeper. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and take that out just to keep everything a little consistent. And we're going to move on to our next question here. What if I wanted to make the background of the page blue? What are we gonna do now? The whole page, we want the whole thing to be blue. How, anybody know how to do that? Anybody have any ideas?
BG color.
Body.
We can use
Background color.
You could use background color, but anybody know where we're gonna do it? So it's one thing to know the CSS styling, which you got right on the head. It's gonna be background color, but what tag are we gonna do this in?
Inside the opening body tag.
Very, very good. Right in the body tag. That's where we want to put it. So the whole page is blue. So we're going to say now background color, just like you told me here, and we're going to change it to blue. Not that at all. There we go. Awesome, awesome. Let's go back to our website and see what happens here. And we refresh. Look at that. Isn't that attention grabbing? Very blue.
Blinding.
So that very much blinding. I apologize.
Very 90s, man.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yes. When the web was the best.
Right there.
So these are 2 direct stylings that we can do here with all of with just the CSS properties. So before we continue, any questions about this before we dive a little bit deeper into some CSS? All right. So continuing on, the thing about this is that styling is very, very common in websites, as you probably have already known. You go to one website, you see how beautiful they look. They did not look like that in the 90s or 2000s. That's because we were still discovering styling and how to actually develop our websites in a more attractive manner. And of course, HTML was still developing, and so was JavaScript, CSS, all those fun things. But now we have the tools to make our websites look absolutely beautiful and attention grabbing, enough to make our startups or our next big idea enough to make millions. So we're gonna learn a little bit more about that today. One thing I do want to bring up is that if we had maybe a larger website such as this one, which is only has 3 sections in it, which again, if you go to any blog post, is nothing. 3 things is very, very easy. And we wanted to change the styling for each header. We would have to come in here and say style, and then we'd have to do say, or we'd have to say color is red, and then I want my font size, which is how we increase or decrease the size of the font to be, maybe I want it to be 55 or something like that. And I wanted to, let's do one more thing. I want to do my font weight, and I want to bold it. These are just 3 things we can do with our text, not even mentioning what we can do with our backgrounds. But if I wanted each of my headers to be like this, I have to copy this long statement here, and I'd have to paste in each one, which is fine for right now, but we only did 3 properties here. Me personally, and I'm sure other developers out there, have worked with CSS properties that are 15 to 20 in length, not to mention the extra complexity. CSS can get pretty big pretty fast. So that is why today we're going to learn how exactly we can make this a little bit prettier here. So the question I'm going to be asking is, how do we exactly keep all of our styling straight inside of our websites? And as we already know, since the title of this lecture today is CSS, it's CSS. CSS stands for Cascading Style Sheets. It's the way the modern web styles their websites and keeps everything in a consistent theme. What we're going to be learning today is how we can actually use CSS to take out that direct styling that we just saw and put it somewhere a little bit more reasonable. To do that, what we're going to be doing is that we're going to be using the head tags today beneath the title. And what we're going to be doing is using a style. I can't see my things. We're going to be using a style tag that has an opening and a closing one. These particular brackets are going to house all of our CSS in it today. So we're going to go back over to our code. We're going to take a look at where to put that. Up here, we're going to say style. Excuse me. And inside of here is where we're going to put all of our CSS. But CSS is not like HTML. As you can already see, it doesn't look anything like it. It doesn't have brackets in here. Instead, it looks more like an object that has colons and properties and keys to it. And like, what the heck is this? It's a completely new subscripting language that we can inject into HTML. So we have to treat it a little bit differently. So the first way that you can actually utilize CSS is by, and there's 3 ways. The first one we're going to look at is through the tag name. The tag name. We know tag names to be paragraph, H1, body is technically a tag name. Anything when those pointy brackets are a tag name. So to do that, we're going to see how to actually write CSS with that tag name. And the first thing you start with is the tag name itself. We see that we did styling here for an H1. So what I'm going to do is type in H1. And then to start a CSS property, we would do a curly bracket. This is how we do this. And so for my H1, I see that I want to do my color red. And just how I did it below, I'm going to write that color and then red. And then I'm going to do, I always get that mixed up. Then we're going to do semicolon. And then I said I want to do my font size. And I said I want it to be 55 pixels, that is what PX stands for. And then we're going to do font weight, which I said I wanted to be bold. As you can see too, Visual Studio Code is very nice because it tells me actually a lot of the CSS properties. There are thousands upon thousands of CSS properties, so this is very helpful for us. All right, cool. Let's go ahead and see this in action. We already saw our website when it was refreshed that this header had a red text, but let's go ahead and see what happens when I remove that styling, direct styling from it. Remove it from all of these and see what actually happens. Control save that. We're gonna go back to, not that one, we're gonna go back to this one. I'm gonna go ahead and refresh. We see that nothing changes. That's because we removed that direct styling, but now we're telling it in CSS that we want you to rename all, or we want you to style all the H1 tags, which is right here. This is our only one in this website, to have the color of red and our font size is 55 and our text is bold. But as you can see from the website, our other, oh, I'm not even on the right one. So it'd be helpful if I went to that actually. Technically, it's gonna look just like it, but question 4. There we go. There we go, that's a lot better. We see our header in the very top here, my big page, as red because it's our H1. But we see that our other 2 sections here, H2 and our other H2, are not styled because we haven't told it explicitly that we want our H2 styled. Because what if I want my H2 styled in maybe green text instead? Well, like we said, we would come down here and put H2, and we'd say color, and we'd say green. There we go. I'd save that, and now it's going to style each and every one of my H2s with that tuck screen. There we go, and we refresh that, and now look at that. It was very, very slim, so hopefully your screen is catching that, but it is green now. These are both green. So instead of having to write 3 long lines of code, all we have to do is do 2 CSS things, and all of our styling has been changed. We do this not only to save code, but again, to keep a consistent theme on our website. That is what we really wanted to do. All right, so that is CSS in a nutshell. The next thing that's tag names for CSS in a nutshell. The next thing I want to talk about is the class name. We can style things by class. Now, we have to depict what a class is. And if you've seen the pre-work material, our classes in CSS are depicted with a dot or begins with a dot. So let's exactly write one of those real quick. So down here, we're going to have a dot to depict a class. We're going to say my paragraphs, which you can call it anything you want. But if you're going to have spaces in there, do not put spaces, put dashes. That's going to be the typical standard. And here, I'm going to say, I want my font size, or let's see, I want my text align, which is going to make it center. Or text aligned, which will be like left align, right aligned, or centered. Say center, just like that. So we have done this, but if I save this and we go back to our website, we're going to see that nothing has actually changed. This is because we haven't assigned this class name to anything. So let's go ahead and do that. What we do is come back to the HTML, and how we do that is we say, come down to a tag, and we use the attribute class. So we say class equals, and I say whatever that class name was, my paragraphs. That's how we're going to assign a CSS class to it, just like that. So I'm going to maybe do the first 2 paragraphs as my paragraph class. I'm going to keep the other ones there just so we can see the difference. So my first 2 paragraphs should be centered. Let's see if we did this right. We refresh this, and it looks like my first 2 paragraphs are centered. This is because we assigned the classes to our CSS class that said text align center. That's how we got these centered. Now, we saw 2 new things there, the text align property in CSS and the classes. We're going to have to go over one more thing with CSS on how to do the styling. And this one is very, very specific. This is the ID. We haven't really necessarily talked about an ID yet in HTML, nor the classes either. So let's go ahead and talk about that. With the IDs in CSS, what these are going to start with is a hashtag. Think hashtag ID. That's how we're going to write these CSS classes in here. Let's go and see that in code. We come up here, we use the dot for a class, and down here we use a hashtag, and then we say and then we give a very specific name for the hashtag ones. And we'll talk about why here in a second. My 3rd paragraph. That, and then in this one, I'm going to do a color of purple. It's going to give that font color purple, and my background color of, I don't even know what it would be, let's say orange. It's going to be very bright. So we have my 3rd paragraph here. Now, something about an ID that's very, very unique is that only one tag should ever get this ID inside of it. ID, a unique identifier, should only be given to one tag. And I'm going to give it to my 3rd paragraph just for fun. So I say ID equals, and then the name of that class. One thing to call out here is that we do not include the hashtag nor the dot in these class names. Do not include the hashtag, do not include the dot when you're putting it into the tag. Save this, and let's go ahead and take a look at it. There we go, and we refresh. Now we see our 3rd paragraph has a background of orange and our text of purple. That is what we just did there for that ID. Now, going back to these things, we have our tag name, class name, and ID. I did this in a specific way for a reason. Tag name is the most generic way to style something. If you want every paragraph, every header one, every whatever other favorite tag that you have to be styled the exact same way, you do it this way with using H1 or body or whatever, and then write it that way. Class names are a little bit more specific. It's making a specific amount of tags a certain theme or a certain color or anything like that. So multiple tags can be used with class names. And then you get to the most specific, ID. ID can only be used for one tag, one specific tag. CSS does a priority. It will style tags with IDs above tags that are given maybe a class name or a tag name. That means if I have a paragraph, let's go over to the code and see what I actually mean by that by priority. If I have a P here for paragraph instead of an H2, it's going to change every paragraph text to green. But down here, I said my third paragraph should be an ID. ID should have more priority. So let's go ahead and take a look at what happens here. We refresh, and we see that ID here has more priority and does not actually change to green, because IDs, the compiler is going to see, okay, that's an ID. I'm going to make this, or I'm going to keep this however my ID is, however my ID states to theme my text and background. So that is about priority. That's about CSS stuff. I wasn't going to dive too much deep into it just because it is a rabbit hole. So what I'm going to say is that if you do want to dive any more dive deeper into the CSS, feel free to reach out or go to the W3 schools again and see the CSS reference just for all of the CSS tags that are out there, or at least most of the common ones, and some of the more rarer ones. And then also, one more thing, and I just making sure we actually have time for it because I want to go through one more example of something. What we're going to do also is that if you're asking yourself, okay, what if I wanted maybe like 15 different other styling things? Isn't this going to get pretty big? And you're absolutely right. It definitely will. So what you typically do is that you're actually going to make your own CSS file. And we're going to see that very, very quickly. So what I would type in is a new directory called CSS. Come here, and I'm going to say new file. I'm going to say styles, styles.css. Our extension is .css. Press enter. And what we're going to do here is we're going to actually copy everything from question 4 into there, just like that. And here's a CSS file, so we don't actually need to use those style tags at all. I'm showing you a thing that we're going to see more down the line, but I did want to briefly bring this up. We can create this CSS folder in here, or file in here. We do not include those style tags, and we can save that. And now we need to come over here and actually import it. If we save this right now and reran our website, we're not going to see any styling. Everything goes back to normal. So let's go ahead and see how we can link up our CSS file to our HTML. As you already know, you have to bring files in there. They're not just going to assume the style's out there. We have to tell it exactly where to go. And how we're going to do that is, again, up in the head here, and we're going to use the link tag. And with that link tag, we have to say a few extra things here. Feel free to write this down if you want. I'm not going to be going too much into it. What we say is style sheet to say what our relationship is to this sheet. And then an href equals, and then styles.css. There we go. I might actually have to include the direct CSS / there we go. So we save that, we go back over here, and then we refresh. You're always just gonna, where am I at? Okay, that. Let's read exactly how you're going to want me to do this. Let's try this one. Of course you're going to do it. /CSS /styles. Did I just spell wrong? Let's see. All right, fine. Be like that. I will do my own stuff. Oh, sometimes it is a pain in the tush sometimes to get these style things. Yeah, thank you. I was like, what are you doing? Yeah, so I was Safari, being Safari. Anywho, so basically this is how you find your CSS thing or your CSS page there. So I'm going to exit out of that. So I would recommend doing Chrome or Firefox, a more up-to-date browser sometimes when you do some of this. Safari and Edge can sometimes be a little iffy. Edge is actually catching up. Safari is way behind. So how you're gonna do it and how you're gonna see this in the future is, again, using this link tag here. So that is everything that I wanted to bring up with you for CSS. Going back here, if you wanna dive deeper also into the link tag or just see more about it, this is the link for that. Just a reminder, this will all be in the recording, so don't feel like you have to copy this down now. All right, I'm gonna give myself a break from talking because I feel like I've done a lot of it there. So go ahead, if anyone has any questions, feel free to shout them out while we have a few minutes, and then we're gonna be going into something else. Anything about CSS, anything about HTML?
For the tags section that you did,
Yep.
If you wanted to make H1 and H2 all the same thing, is there a way to do that, or just do class instead of doing the tag?
So yeah, you could use, technically you could do that. So what you can do is you can do H1, I believe, and then comma H2. So technically that's how you could do that. But also if you want all of your H1 and H2 tags to be like that, this is how you would do it. But I'd also sometimes recommend just doing classes at that point. But that's how you would do that. Lawrence, I would be happy to go over any of the things that you want about CSS. I just feel bad because there's so much to go into and I can't do it right now. But definitely, yeah, happy to. CSS can get very complex very fast, but I just want to show you guys the fun stuff. But I do recommend going deeper if you want to talk, know more about CSS priority, all of the CSS properties that are there. It is a very powerful, very, very powerful language. Hence how the web has turned out today.
So
yeah, Johnny.
The else command that works with for loops, it doesn't seem to also work with while loops, and I don't know why this is.
So right now we're actually on CSS. So if you want to ask that question to your TF or TA, feel free to do that tonight. Otherwise, reach out to me individually and we'll talk about that.
Okay.
Awesome. All right. Any other questions about the HTML or CSS? Kiki, we actually absolutely will. That will be our next thing that we're going to be doing. So I will get into that here momentarily. Can CSS classes inherit from other CSS classes? Like if you wanted two classes to be the same except for one or two properties? Yes, they absolutely can. What you can do is that you can, this is about all that fun stuff, my paragraphs inherited. So what you can do, and I always get this context always mixed up. If you just wanted to say, maybe you want your font size to be over here, size to be 10 pixels instead. You can inherit, I believe, like my paragraphs, forgot, oh, I always forget. There is a way to do it. I forgot what the exact notation was. I apologize. But yes, there is a way for it to inherit. Let's see. Inherit other CSS classes. Can't spend too much time on this one, but I am. Yeah, that's right. Okay, something posit. Yeah, something like that. So I'll put this into the general channel, or here I'll actually, there we go. Red. I'll reply back to your question with that. That will help you out, at least give you a starting point. But yes, you're looking for CSS classes inherited. Does anyone have a cheat sheet for terminal commands? I do not have a cheat sheet for you, but feel free to look up your Mac or Windows command prompts options. What you typically use is ls for to see all the files, cd to change your directory. If you want more of those, review the last lecture, or yeah, just look them up online too for commands for Windows or Mac. Doesn't matter in which order you put everything in the body. It matters because that's what's going to be what you're going to be looking at. So if I go to question 4 and I put this paragraph at the very top, it's going to appear at the very top of the page. So in your body, it absolutely is very important how you structure it, because that's how the user is going to see it, exactly to a T of however you structure it here on your environment. Regan, does that help? Or did I misunderstand your question?
No, that's perfect. I just wanted to make sure that if it all just kind of goes in the same way. I know about like when you put your title where that goes H1. I was talking about more of like the style. like in the style area, like it doesn't matter if, you know, you put H1 or H2. I mean, I'm pretty sure chronological order, but I just wanted to make sure if it matters or not.
Oh, I'm sorry. So in the styling, how it lines up.
Yeah.
Okay. Technically, not for the most part. No, it does not matter. For anything that we're going to be doing, it does not matter. When you get into more priority and inheritance, it sometimes can, but don't worry about it right now. It doesn't matter the order. And in most of the situations ever, even in development, it won't matter. So.
Okay, thank you.
Absolutely. All right. So I might be looking antsy just because I know we have one more fun topic to cover. So we're going to have to do that right now. So let's continue here. I promised you all last time that I would go through a Git example. And guess what? I did not deliver to that because my Git was broken. So today, fun story as Kyle loads up his stuff, is that Kyle completely broke his Git. Isn't that awesome? So I actually had to uninstall, reinstall, and uninstall, and then reinstall my Git, hence why my slides are a little lacking tonight. So my computer broke and made me have a very interesting Monday. So, but it's back working. So we're gonna actually see, don't shake your head. I know, it has been a lot. But that's what Mondays are. So let's go ahead and actually see this Git in action. What we're gonna be going over today is we just created this lecture 14 thing. This is just a file that we, or a folder, a project that we have created on our machine, but is not being shared with the world, nor our repositories up in the cloud. So, excuse me. So as we already know from our last time, Git is actually a very useful tool. So we're gonna go through it real quick before we actually see it in action. What we always start with, as we saw today, is code. And what we're gonna be doing is running an initialize on it to get Git on our local machine for our single application. You have to run an init for every application you do to begin with it for Git. You only have to do it once, but you have to do it for every application. If you're creating a brand new one from scratch, this creates a local Git repo on our machine. So if I add more code to it, all okay, I now have a reason to do a commit. So we initialize to get started, and then we're gonna write code, and we do commit, which is basically like saying save on your local machine. This saves those changes locally to your local repo. But if your computer crashed or it fell in a river, it's not gonna come back anytime soon because it's all on your local machine. So we need to actually save this to a safe place, hence where Git comes in. Git is a cloud-based application that saves all of our stuff in a safe place. How we get it up to that cloud, how we get it up to the UFO in the sky is we do a push. We're gonna be pushing our stuff up to Git. This will share those local changes with Git, so it's up there and saved in a safe spot. But as we already know, what if we're gonna be working with a friends or a team, hint, hint, our studio tonight, and we wanna share all of our stuff? Well, in that case, what the team member has to do, because they don't have your project on their machine, is that they're gonna have to clone it. They're gonna have to clone tonight. Once you clone something, it will save a local copy of the repo to your machine with everything you've written on your previous one. So what happens when your friend or teammate or your colleague tonight writes a line of code? Well, now it's time for them to actually commit to their local machine and push back up to Git. Again, you'll have to commit on their machine and then push. So push those changes up to Git. But now your machine's out of date, you're out of sync. So what do you have to do? You have to bring it in here by pulling onto your local machine right there. Once you pull those changes in, it will show that brand new line of code there. This is Git in a nutshell. And today we're going to see a little bit more about it. So actually, let's go into Git and we're going to come back to our code base. And this is where we're actually going to be pushing up into the cloud. So you all can have access to it like you've been asking. So what I'm going to do is come over here and I'm going to clear this out. I'm on lecture 14. And what we're going to do first is that we need to initialize our repository. What an easy way to do is come up here and we say new, and I'm going to create a new repository. So I press new there, and I'm going to type lecture 14 init walkthrough. I just want to do a repository name, make sure it is unique. I'm going to say public for this one so you all can see it, and then create repository. Then you have two options here, create a new repository on the command line or push an existing repository from the command line. We have not ran an init yet on our machine. Therefore, we don't have a local repository. So I'm actually gonna have to choose this option here. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna copy this. Let's go line by line and see what it's gonna do. First thing, it's going to create a read, or it's going to say, oh, I'm gonna create this. And then it's gonna run that git init. Git init is how we initialize. Then it's going to add a README file. README files are how we know what the project is all about. Then, like we said, after we do init, we have to commit. And then we have to branch. A branch means that you're just deviating from your code, or you're creating, think of a trunk of a tree. You're creating where all of your stuff is. And we'll go a little bit more into branches here tonight too. But it's basically the trunk of your tree, where all the stuff lives. And then we're gonna remote add. Remote add means I'm gonna push or create a part of that cloud to save all of our information in. That's what remote means. Remote equals cloud. Remote means somewhere far away, that computer somewhere else that's gonna save all of our data safely. And then we're gonna push. Like we said, we have to push out into the world. We have to push up into that remote repo that we're gonna be creating here. That's what each of these lines are for. So I'm gonna copy that, come over here, and I'm gonna go ahead and clear this out. And I'm gonna paste all those lines in, and then finally press enter there. And it's gonna say, oh, I see all your stuff here. Oh, it actually kept me signed in, thank you. And it actually pushes up to the cloud. So all I did was I copied and I pasted that into my console, and everything ran there. But as you can see, we had a light show behind us. Everything now is green. Once Git gets initialized, Visual Studio Code is actually gonna come in here and say, okay, everything green, that's all up in the cloud, you're A-okay. If you see something yellow, I believe it means it's changed, or yellow or gray, depending on your settings, and then red means deleted. Red means deleted. So we just pushed all that up there. We see that light show behind us. Let's go ahead and see what happened on our thing here. I'm gonna go ahead and refresh this remote repository that we created on GitHub. And now we see that we actually have stuff in here. So it doesn't look like we have any of our files in here. So we initialized everything, but we haven't added any of our files. So what I'm gonna do is come over here, I'm gonna say git add and then -big A. This means I want you to add all of the files to there. Then to see what I need to, or to see any of the changes that I'm gonna be pushing or committing, I say Git Status. Look at this now. It says we have a bunch of new files with a bunch of directories there. This is exactly what we're gonna be committing. So I'm gonna say git commit to see if we need to commit anything. I don't believe we will. Second commit. Try to put some kind of good description in your commits there. There we go. So we just committed all of that there. I just said second commit because we're just getting all the stuff up into the repo. And then we're gonna finally say git push. It might be mad at me for that one. It isn't. Awesome. So I say git push there. And there we go. We pushed up to the cloud. It's safe. So I can now drop my computer from my balcony and it will be okay. We can save that code. Not that my balcony is high. All right, so we refresh this. And there we go. We see all of our files in there. So that's second commit. And we also see what I said there, second commit in the first. So second commit. So we push all of our stuff in there. So now this is all safe on here. Isn't that nice? All right, so that's how we do that. If I make any other changes then, say maybe I do a big page exclamation point, a lot of exclamation points, and I save that. Let's go back to our terminal and see what happens. We type in git status, and we see that this has been modified. Class question 4.html has been modified. So what we do is we say git commit am made a change to class question for HTML file or something like that. It'd kind of be a little bit specific so you know what you're doing. You just press enter. I committed, and then who can tell me what I have to do next? I committed my stuff. I want to go up there. Gotta push it, right? Oh gosh. All right, git push. Isn't that a song? I think like Salt and Pepper singing this one. I don't remember. Anyway.
So when do you add versus push?
When you create new folders or new files, if I do like a right-click new file, class question 5, you want to do a git add. If you add files, add folders, you do a git add.
Okay.
Git Add -A is usually what I use just to make sure everything is added. Now, one big thing to also want to call out that I know is sometimes common, make sure you run your Git init in your project folder. That's why it was very important at the beginning of class to tell you, open up your project folder, not your project file. If you try to run a Git init anywhere else but your project folder, you're gonna have a bad day. I don't want anybody here to have a bad day. So please make sure you're doing that. All right, so that is how we start our startup idea to make millions. How do we join our team now to pull or clone that $1 million idea from the Git repo? Well, we're gonna take one more example and take one more look on how to do that. Because guys, we're all going into business with each other. We just need one good idea. Please direct message me all the $1 million ideas that you have so I can quit my job. Right, where am I at? So I'm gonna go back to my Git repo here, and I have another repo for us to do. So, go to my repositories. And here is our lecture 14 repo walkthrough. So what I'm gonna do here is that, okay, this is our $1 million idea. Someone shared me this repository, it's public, so I can pull it onto my machine. So what I'm gonna do here is that I am going to first see what directory I'm in. I'm in lecture 14. I don't want to pull a project within a project. I need to go somewhere safe to pull it in there. So I'm going to CD back. $1 million idea, dog rollerblades. I love it. We're going to go back to one directory. So I'm now in LC. And who can tell me how I get a repository from the Git Cloud, the remote, onto my local machine? What keyword are we going to use? Git what?
Pull.
Clone.
Pull is actually, thank you. We have to do clone first. Pull, I like that, but we're one step ahead. We need to get it on our machine first. So what we do is say git clone, but we need to actually clone something. So we're going to go up here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to say code. You click on code, and I need to get this line here. So you see clone up here. This is how I'm going to clone it. I need to get this URL here. So I copy it by clicking that little icon right there. Go back here. I say git clone, and I paste that large link there.
Do you need to be in a folder first?
I am. I'm in LC. I am in my LC thing, and my finger's going down to the enter button. Good call out, though. We have to make sure that we're in the specific folder we want to bring this project folder into. You can do this on your desktop, that's fine. I would recommend you go into LC 101. The only place you should not do it is in an existing project. Do not clone something in an existing project. I've seen that many times and it causes a lot of confusion, so make sure you are in the correct directory before you clone that. As you can see, we got all of those files, so let's actually see if it's there. I'm gonna type in clear here to clear this out, type in ls, and look at that. We just cloned this lecture 14 repo walkthrough. Awesome. Let's go ahead and open it. I'm gonna say file, open. And what I need to do is go down to LC, and I single click this because I want to open up the project folder. I press open. Go ahead and save it. And now I'm here. I have my index.html. That's like a little HTML file, which is really nice. And it's our shared repo. So awesome. So my friend just sent me the repo somewhere that they're on vacation, whatever, or just somewhere else in the world, and you're trying to collaborate. You can share that repo link. And now I have all that code over here. Just to prove it, we'll go ahead and go into the Finder. And we're going to go into LC, and we're going to go into that repo walkthrough, double click our index.html. And we just saw something developed on the other side of the world shared with us instantly. That's why it gets so popular. It's highly collaborative. So what if I want to update our website to do something that someone shared with me? So I say, welcome to this website. I just want to do a small edit. We save it. And then we have to CD into the lecture 14 walkthrough. And what do we need to do first? Who can tell me? I want to make sure that my changes are actually there. How can I check to see if anything's been changed? What keyword do we use for this?
Git status.
Very good. And it's modified. And now I see something's modified. So I didn't add a file, I just updated text. So I don't need to run a git add. So I'm just gonna say git commit -am. Made an awesome change. Awesome. And now what do I need to do? I committed my stuff. I saved it locally, but now what do I have to do?
Push.
Very good. I say git push. Push it. Push. Oh, no, I don't know. That is a song. I'm looking it up.
Push it real good. It is.
Thank you. Thank you. I was like, what is the other two? Like, yeah, okay. And it pushes. And it pushes up to the repo. So now my friend in wherever they're at, can now pull that change and we can keep collaborating and working on our idea. So that is it. The final thing that I wanted to talk to you about is that what if my friend and I are working on two different parts of the application? We don't want to share our code directly. What we do is we branch. That means that, say, I want to style the code one way and they want to style the code the other way. You would branch off of each other. And that was a terrible way of explaining what exactly this has to do. What if, I'm trying to think of the best, I've been trying to think of an analogy for branching the whole time. But essentially, think of you got an Excel sheet or a Word document shared to you, but you want to make your own private edits and not share it with them. What you do is that you would typically copy and make a copy of that Word document and change it however you want. And that person would have a completely pristine other Word document there. That copy of the Word document or the Excel sheet is considered a branch in Git. So when you make a copy of something, basically this code base, and do your own changes, you're branching off of that code base. You're branching off to do your own changes. And how we do that is we say git branch my other changes. And then git branch. So we branched off now. So now I can see that, and I type in git branch to see all of my branches. So we say git branch and the name of the branch to create one, create that copy. Then we say git branch to see all the ones available. I'm sorry about this one, it's gonna get a little bit intricate here. We say git branch to see all of our available copies, or all of our available branches. I wanna go to my other changes, my private stuff, my own copy. So what I say is git checkout my other changes. So we switch to my other changes here. So now I can make any changes I want on my other changes, and it won't affect my friend's branch because they have another copy. This is how you can collaborate, but also if you're trying out maybe something theoretical or something new, or you don't want to step on their toes, you can branch off so you can do your own stuff. But what if you wanted to bring all those changes? What if that theoretical thing, that awesome button color you came up with is actually good and you want to bring it into your friend's branch again or your friend's copy? Well, that's called a merge. You merge your branches together. So if all your codes, you split off, you're deviating different paths, but you realize, okay, my code's pretty awesome. You're going to merge your code back. And that's how you can collaborate without stepping on each other's toes in a big team environment. How we would do that is you say git. So what you do is that you check out. So git checkout main. What if I want to merge my other changes into like main here? Is I git checkout main. I believe then it's git merge my other changes. Technically, it's already up to date because I didn't make any changes there, but I would merge my branch back in to main by saying git merge and whatever branch I want to merge into mine. And then you push. You push any or commit anything and push anything that you've changed. That one is a tricky one. And we'll go over it in the future, but it's one thing I wanted to bring up to you before you started your study tonight. It will be the one thing I would ask you to definitely pay attention to and seeing how it would actually help you maybe in a big team environment like we discussed, that really, really does increase that collaboration. So I have gone almost grossly over time today, but I'll open up here for a few minutes of questions before we have to break out and do our studio tonight. Anything at all? Oh, and I am not in the right one. Of course I'm not. Merge seems like there may be a lot of errors from duplicates or inconsistencies. Git will actually merge all your code together for you. It will sew everything up. But if maybe you both edited the same line, Git's gonna have a confusing time like, okay, do I take your side or do I take your friend's side? You will both edited the same exact line 55 in different ways. What do I do? When you come to that kind of question, that's called a merge conflict. Git will make it very apparent that you have a merge conflict. If you both edited the same line, it doesn't know who to choose. So it will ask you, do I take this person or this person's? You might see that tonight in this studio, but that is called a merge conflict. Otherwise, duplicates and inconsistencies, it typically gets rid of all of that. Any of that would be more human-made if there were any. Once we've cloned a Git, can we rename the local folder? Technically, yes, you can. You can rename the folder because everything is saved in your Git config for that particular project. Any security risk to pull information onto your computer in this way? I mean, there's always a risk because you're downloading files, but you should be aware of any programs that you're installing from a Git repo. I believe they do a virus scan beforehand, but don't just copy any repos that you know about. But I'm sure there's some kind of security issues. Let's see. Yeah, only clone from a trusted source. Yeah, there's always things. Once you bring things on your computer, there's a risk for everything. All right. Any final questions before I let you all go? All right. In that case, thank you, everyone. It has been an extra long class, but we had a lot of stuff to cover. Thank you for paying attention. Thank you for bearing with me through this Monday. And I'll see you hopefully all back for studio review at 8 tonight. Other than that, I'll see you all on Thursday then. Have a great one, everyone. Have a great week. Stay safe. And get out there and enjoy that sun Tuesday and Wednesday. All right. Bye, everyone.